ready to do it in just a minute.
You're ready.
Okay. All right, we're live, Page Unified School District, on August the 11th for our regular meeting. I'd like to welcome you all if you're joining us online, and again, just welcome. First day of learning yesterday. We're all excited here, but let me go over some of the ground rules. Obviously we're on Zoom. We're live as well on YouTube, so you'll be able to view and listen to the meeting. We've also chosen, as part of our regular meeting, we have a comment section, which we'd allow folks to make comments 3 minutes long. We are making that available to you. However, it'll have to be done if you send an email, or you can call Lynn Hoffman at the offices and let her know you have something you'd like to say. But there is a web page, comments@pageud.org. And if you submit your comments no later than Monday by 5 p.m., the day before each regular meeting, we will read those. And please understand, we don't address issues that are not on the agenda. However, you can make comments as you wish. So again, good to see everybody in the house, and we're going to go ahead and get this meeting started with the roll call. And Ms. Kidman, we'll start with you. Uh-oh. Did we lose Sandra? All right, let's go ahead. Ed, Mr. Franklin, go and start us off.
Okay, Ed Franklin.
Unmute, please, Dee.
Dee McCary.
Thank you so much. I'm Board President Bob Candelaria, and we're still looking for Sandra Kidman. She was on a second ago. Sandra, are you there? Okay, I'm sure she'll be back. We do have a quorum, and we'll go ahead and continue with this. Also, Superintendent Wallen, would you acknowledge? You're in the house?
Yes, I am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And joining us is Lynn Hoffman, our executive assistant for the board and for the superintendent. So again, welcome to our board meeting. And we'd like to start this off with a moment of silent meditation. Would you please join us as we do that? All right, thank you very much. And now we're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Ms. Dee McCary, if you would, Dee.
Yes, I'll stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Ms. McCary. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda itself. This is an action item. I'll need a motion and a second, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda items.
Thank you.
And I second that motion.
We have a motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, good. Thank you. As I understand, we have no comments, so we'll go ahead and move on into the special business section of our meeting. And it's Jeannie Wood with Stop School Violence Program. She's got a presentation for us. Ms. Wood.
Good afternoon. Can you see my screen and hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Thank you. Governing Board President Candelaria, Superintendent Wallen, Governing Board members. I'm here with you to share two different grant opportunities that have been made available to PUSD recently. The first one is the Stop School Violence Program. The Stop School Violence Program stemmed from the Stop School Violence Act of 2018. Under the School Safety Project, they held three broad criteria. Number one, training to prevent student violence against others and self, to include training for local law enforcement, school personnel, and students. Number two, the development and operation of anonymous reporting systems for threats of school violence, mobile telephone apps, hotlines, and internet websites. And number three, the development and deployment of school threat assessment and intervention teams that include coordination with agencies and school personnel and specialized training for school officials responding to mental health crises. I use this slide often because it helps to keep me grounded and mindful. This was from another presentation that I presented earlier in the summer, or a training that I attended. But I bring it up often when we come together in groups because it really does hit home. During the times of COVID-19, it is imperative and critical to balance our near and long-term needs. I especially like the second statement and the bullet. It's most impactful now to improve accessibility of differentiated instruction and support services during both in-person and virtual situations to include mental health crises. In response to this, in late May and early June, 3 teams of approximately 15 came together for the purpose of a think tank. This included the PUSD Director of Student Services, our Security and Safety Coordinator, our Superintendent, middle school and high school counselors, and it also included Encompass, Canyonlands, and Coconino County Health and Human Services. I served as the co-facilitator with Lisa Horsley. And the first thing that we did in the think tank was we really had to consider listing our current needs. Secondly, we began listing our current reality, including what community resources are available to us. And finally, we were allowed to dream for a little bit. And so we called this Might We Consider? And this was our way of going back to the needs statement of how are we going to ensure that we are improving that accessibility of support services during this time. And so as the team began to develop our collective why, I'm going to read a couple of statements that they wrote. One is the importance of building a strong connection for students at school. A second statement, making students feel as if they are a part of something. Creating a stronger, positive environment on campuses. Increasing a sense of community on our campuses. And finally, building strong partnership with entities in our surrounding community. Having that purpose in mind, I want to share with you the context of the grant itself. There's 2 different categories that are in alignment, but I'm going to speak to each separately because that's how the application was written. So category 3, the purpose was to train school personnel and educate students on preventing student violence against others and themselves, to include anti-bullying or other training programs to prevent violence. This can include specialized training for school officials to respond to mental health crises. I really want to accentuate the word preventing in this scenario. This is a 5-year grant, and allowable budget items included salary and benefits, training, the idea of an ESSA evidence-based program or strategy, Sandy Hook prevention program, again, to build competencies for social emotional learning. So when we go back to the ongoing and the recurring needs, the need for that strong social emotional learning is evident right now. The Sandy Hook promise really is Start with Hello is for the younger grade levels, and it talks about the idea of creating a more inclusive and connected school culture. Say Something, which is more appropriate for older students, train students to look for warning signs and threats, including social media, of someone hurting themselves or others, and how to speak to a trusted adult about that. This is in alignment with our current resource of PBIS, or our current system of PBIS. And within this funding opportunity, we asked for a program coordinator, additional support with mental health counselors, a club advisor, and the most critical piece of this, 30 team members to include teachers and other support staff that can develop a resource guide and implementation guide. Because it's nice to go to these trainings and nice to understand social emotional learning, but we can't think about it as an isolated, today we're going to learn about social emotional learning. It needs to be built into the structure of our day and our time together. The second category that was made available, category number 4, is develop and implement threat assessment and or intervention teams, or operate technology solutions such as anonymous reporting systems for threats of school violence, again, including mobile telephone applications, hotlines, and websites. These teams must coordinate with law enforcement agencies and school personnel. This again came down to the idea of that critical training piece, as well as the implementation of a threat assessment system, including restorative practices. This is in alignment with, again, programs that we have started. It also stems back to the social emotional learning piece of that, trauma invested training pieces. And the program would really be around Value Up. The purpose of Value Up is strengthening the culture of schools. It talks about the idea of bullying, anxiety, social media issues, etc. And it ties back together and links with category number 3 as well. Again, heavy in the salary in terms of coordinator, a restorative practice coordinator, and again, 30 team members who will look at not only attending the school safety conference, but how to bring that back in manageable chunks and to implement that in intervention teams that are impactful to students, families, and our community. Category number 4, we applied for in the amount of $709,000, and category number 3, we went for the full $750,000. Again, this is over the course of 5 years with a sustainability plan of starting to transition, and those programs would be fully implemented at that time, and so there would be less of a need for the training opportunities because that would just be part of the practice in day-to-day operations. What questions do you have about the Stop School Violence Grant program?
Anybody have anything you'd like to say or comment on, board members?
Jeff, once again, thank you to Jenny. Great opportunity. And I know this is a whole lot of hard work, but good job.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
I have a financial question.
Yeah,
Okay.
Go ahead.
So is the 750,000 over 5 years?
Yes, it is. It's not
So-
750,000 annually. It's over the course of 5 years. So for year 1, we went heavy, and then as you start moving into years 4 and 5 in particular, it starts dwindling substantially because a lot of the training in that will come up front with time to apply that training. And so a lot of that is spent within year 1.
So how much of that in year 1?
246,000, I believe, but I can give you the entire breakdown in a spreadsheet for you to view as well, so you can see the sustainability plan of that.
Yeah, would you send that to me, please?
I would be happy to. Would you like it for
'Cause-
both categories?
Yes, because over 5 years, that's $150,000 a year average. And so I'm wondering, with a director that takes up, if we hire a director for that, like you mentioned, that would take up 1/3 of the money already, I would think. So I would be interested in a breakdown of those, please.
Sure. I would be happy
Thank
to.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kibden. Anybody else? I'll just mention one thing. I just listening to your presentation and looking at it ahead of time, and the conversations that we've had with CWC recently, and their committed involvement with the school. Do you see any potential for any kind of synergy between two things that it'd be nice to be able to kind of tap in with both resources, but because they have certain things that may match here that you're going after here in the grant as well. Do you see anything that might work that way?
Absolutely. And some of those same people were part of these think tanks.
Good.
Now it really is connecting our community resources more effectively.
Nice,
And
nice.
a deep understanding of, although there's internal connections and people that know one another, even building the competencies across the board to understand how we can better blend and support one another is going to be impactful moving forward.
Good.
And that will be a continued part of this process as well as we move forward And again, while it's critical to have a coordination of that effectively, because those things change and we need to continue to have someone whose primary responsibility is to look at those resources,
Right.
bring those conversations back, look at how community resources have changed, and then be able to respond to that appropriately. So it really will take a lot of effort on the front end of that, but yes, we have great potential there.
Great. All right, good. I appreciate that. That sounds good. I hate to build two separate systems that kind of cross over a little bit. And if we can just tie those things together and yeah, that sounds really, really good, Jeannie. Now, what's the time frame for this? You've already applied. What's your expectation in terms of whether we're accepted or not?
I would anticipate that we are going to hear affirmative within the next couple of weeks for this one.
Okay,
So,
good.
yes.
Well, that's awesome. And please include me on your information to Mrs. Kidman as well with the finances.
Yep, I can send that right after this meeting is over, the 5-year budget breakdown for both.
Great, that's awesome. Any other comments or questions from the board?
Bob Desiree here. I would also like a copy of the finances as well too, Jeannie. Thank you.
I will just send it to all of you so you can.
Ah, there you go. Now we're going. Okay.
And I'm covered.
Good anticipation, Ms. Wood. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
And I would, okay, any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, Ms. Wood. We're going to go on to the next one. However, let me acknowledge the fact that Ms. Fowler has joined us. Thank you very much, Ms. Fowler. Introduce yourself.
Desiree Fowler, board clerk.
Way to go. And you're out at Copper Mine, huh?
Yes, I am. Today I am. Yes.
Yeah, it's almost like you're here. We can hear you so clear. Wow, that's nice. Yeah, I'm going to, yeah, you bet. And then the other one that Sandra was here early, and during the roll call, she jumped out. She probably taking care of business at the house, but Sandra Kidman, would you please acknowledge yourself as part of the roll call?
Hi, Bob. Sandra Kidman here. I had some headphone problems. I
Oh,
was trying out some new headphones and they disappointed me. So
oh,
here
good.
I
And
am now.
you're okay now?
Yep.
All
If
right.
you can hear me, I can hear you. So thank you.
All the way across town, we can hear you right here in the boardroom, just like you were here. All right, good. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And all right, so with that, we'll move to item number B. It's InTech Community Benefit Fund COVID-19 Emergency Response. And what is InTech, Mr. Wallen?
Navajo Transition Energy Company. It's a how would I say it? A enterprise of the Navajo Nation that is a for-profit enterprise as they are moving into the energy market. Most recently, you may have heard they bought 3 mines in Montana. And so they're very involved in especially helping in the communities. They've contributed quite a bit of money to a variety of locations throughout Navajo Nation to help mitigate the COVID-19 emergency.
Hey, great. And you're on, you and Jeannie.
Jeannie, you,
Again. So again, as Superintendent Wallen shared, this grant opportunity is entitled Community Benefits Fund. It is supported through Navajo Transitional Energy Company, and it is COVID-19 Emergency Response Fund. An application was submitted for this grant. Let me change my screen. And let me first ask, can you still see my screen?
yes.
Okay, perfect. There were 4 different project areas. The project area that we applied for is within the area of education, and our impact area was youth impact. Allowable expenses included teacher safety need, hotspots and Wi-Fi, online education need, school safety need, and training for reopening through CDC guidelines. This is an alignment with CARES Act money. So let me just clarify, this isn't in addition to CARES Act money, but when we think about using additional funds such as this, we're thinking about it in the same way that we think about how we're going to spend CARES Act money with the 3 different relief, preparation and prevention, and recovery timelines. We are currently within phase 2, preparation and prevention, in alignment with that. And so the grant application was written with that intent. When we were in the relief phase of this, and we talk in terms of technology, that's where Title I money was used last year with flexibility to purchase additional technologies for students. We are now in, again, phase 2, preparation and prevention. Our project name that was submitted is PUSD Building Connections. Our primary need through this project is to ensure connectivity of resources, hotspots, and Wi-Fi for our students. We had 2 project objectives. Project objective number 1 was to improve connectivity access for students by increasing Wi-Fi and data plans on our buses. And project objective number 2, to ensure connectivity access for students by providing additional hotspots and data plans. I have 2 different amounts you can see on your screen. At the time of application, I went big. We went for the full $123,000. We later found out today, as a matter of fact, that the goal should be between $5,000 and $15,000. The revised amount will be in the amount of $14,442.80 for the purchase, for the purpose of 60 hotspots, 10 SIM cards for our buses, and 20 gig plan for our buses, totaling the amount of $14,442.80. We will hear very quickly back from this grant. Next Monday is when we will hear affirmative or non-affirmative on this one.
All right, good.
Any questions regarding
Anything else to add, Mr. Wallen?
So I'm very excited that NTEC is reaching out to the community based on their new development. You know, they're into energy, solar energy specifically. They've got 2 or 3 solar plants now going throughout the nation. And as I said, they have 3 mines in Montana. And so they are really moving forward and developing a great program for Navajo Nation.
Okay, good. Board members, open mic.
I have a question just in regards to when we say hotspots, how many are we talking about of all the chapters?
We had gone out and 350 hotspots were purchased. I am asking for 60 additional hotspots for that. This will include all chapter areas, and that was included in the grant application as well, serving students across the board. And I know for some students, the necessity is for more than 1 hotspot. So Brian explained to us today a family that has 8 students that attend within our district. The necessity for them is to have multiple hotspots provided to one family. So it is in alignment with our current need. And quite frankly, we may find that we need additional purchased down the road as well.
Mr. Wallen, would you unmute, please? Thank you.
A hotspot is about the size of your cell phone. That's a little box, and it reaches out and grabs the nearest cell tower, whomever it belongs to, and it then creates an internet connection. It's for data only. So when we purchase the hotspot, we purchase that little box, which costs about $75. And then we purchase a data plan for the next 6 months, which is $30 per month for that hotspot. So it has unlimited data. And we're having quite a success with it. You know, for example, I received an email this afternoon from Ms. Williams, our educational support. I wanted you to know all the locations I went to in the Scripta house were able to connect to the hotspot that she went to. And usually I tell her to take about 10 with you and take those out there. I was on Route 16 and went as far as milepost 7. I was probably about 3 miles off the highway to the east and had no difficulty connecting. I was also able to pull up information in the stores, but that was the awesome part, as they were able to connect. I know the N20 Copper Mine Road that way seems to be pretty easy to connect, We're having a lot of success with that. We're having a little bit more challenges on N98 about halfway to Kaibito. There's a dead spot right now that we're dealing with. That's we're testing some different options on that. But we have what was that 100 and we've handed out 150 hotspots of the 350 that we purchased. And as Jeannie said, in some cases a family has more than one. A hotspot's good for about 2 connections. So 2 devices could connect up, maybe 3, depending on how strong the signal is. So if you have, 8, then obviously you're gonna need 2 or 3 to connect up everybody in that family at the same time. Because remember, when you go to virtual school, everybody in Page Unified School Districts is connecting up at 8 o'clock in the morning. So there's 2,471 kids logging into their computers to their classrooms at that time.
Okay, good. Well, that's good. That's encouraging report, obviously with hotspots. Any other comments, board members, or any questions? All right.
I just want to share and show Dee what the hotspots look like. So this is what I am currently using from my house, and that is the hotspot that was given from the school district. So my boys are actually able to do their online schooling, and it works really well out here. Yesterday, I had a niece who went into town and couldn't get onto the internet and Page. So she got in touch with my son, and she ended up having to come back here to Coppermine and was able to utilize the hotspot here at our house without any problems at all.
Well, that's good.
Well, thank you, Des, for that explanation. That helps a little.
Yeah, thank you, Des. All right, anybody else?
Just that the hotspots are turning out to be an interesting option where we have those available. Another thing that we're looking at and considering is we've been talking to the chapters, and the chapters are hesitant to allow people to go on their internet.
Oh.
And I didn't understand why, but now I do. If any of you have ever had HughesNet, Lichee and Kaibito, and I believe Coppermine, all 3 have HughesNet. HughesNet is a satellite that sits on top of your house about the size of Dish or DirecTV. It goes out and then it comes back down. However, I've had HughesNet myself, and it has data limits. So when you reach 200 megabytes, as an example, it starts slowing down. And so I now can appreciate why the chapters are saying that, because that's the way they get their work done. And but then that causes me to say, wait a minute, maybe we should buy some HughesNet systems and put them out there where we can. That's one thing. The other thing is we're also working with George Hardeen. I'll give him credit at Navajo Generating Station, because there are T1 lines out there that we believe might be accessible, and he is helping us front that. Mr. Candelaria is also on that project, as well as Lichee chapter and Kaibito chapter are willing to step in. We're trying to figure out the I don't want to say politics, but the politics of how to get access. Is that still Salt River Project, or is that now Navajo Nation T1 lines? So we're working through that, but we believe if we could get access to those T1 lines, and then I understand that there is a tower up on Navajo Mountain that really gave excellent cell service to that'd be east, I guess, to the east. And so if we could get that lit up, that would be a great asset to our students. I'm very impressed by the number of kids, just like Ms. Fowler talked about, that are able to connect through those hotspots. I ran tests on them myself and was looking at the up and download speeds and going, oh, this is not going to work. But it seems to be working great. It's just a different way of doing things. So we have those what's it called? Cell 1. Then those data plans, I said, will last 6 months, and then we'll have to decide where we're going from there, depending on where we are in the whole process of the opening and reopening of schools. But it's been more successful than I thought. I have not gone to the Bitter Springs side yet to see what's happening, but we'll be following up on that. All the buses, the 10 buses, now have the new SIM cards in them, so we'll be checking those out to make sure they work.
Okay, good. That's great information. Anybody else have anything?
I have a question for you. Somebody
go.
had mentioned they wanted to know more about the Wi-Fi's with the buses going out to the reservation. When will we have those buses available with the Wi-Fi capacity for our students?
They are available now to do that, but again, it's a training process to teach how to access those Wi-Fi's. Those are more powerful than the hotspot like you're holding up. Those, we think 30 to 40 devices should be able to connect through and go up. But again, they've got to have that cell tower access to make that work. They are ready to go. And, we've been delivering, running the bus routes and delivering lunch and breakfast every day. They've been prepping about 800 meals a day. And so we're putting 50 meals per bus. We found out that there is a communications issue with getting that out, but I've talked with some of the IEC members today, and we're trying to get that out to everybody. There seems to be a local Facebook network in different communities, and so we're trying to find people who can post to the local network, the local FaceTime networks, that information that those meals are available and ready to go.
I want to say I've been sharing some of those posts to the different locations, but I think one that I find hard to post to on Facebook is Inscription House. On tapped into, but that'd be great.
Okay. Anything else, folks? That's good. That's very good stuff. And Ms. Wood, thank you very much for jumping on these and staying on top of them. This would be a big benefit for our efforts here for sure. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Item number C, there are no donations. So we'll move on into item number 4, reports, governing board reports. Who wants to start us off?
I will do that.
Well, you get to close the whole thing. So
okay. Sorry.
You're a closer. You're like the the
the
number
closer.
4 hitter in the lineup.
Hey, that was one of my favorite shows, The Closer. So.
All right.
Bob, I'll kick it off.
Okay, great.
I had quite a few of the employees over there. I mentioned Miss Rivera over at the high school with the registration with the help for even with the disenrollment. And one of them went over there, just said the number of people and the volume and everything else, and her attitude was just super. So just like to say thank you to her, because that means a whole lot to individuals out there, knowing that this is a big rush and everything else, but her courtesy and everything was well noted.
Thank you, Ms. Rivera. That's awesome. And, board members, keep going.
Do you
Who do we
want
have
me to
next?
go?
You bet.
Okay. So I just wanted to congratulate the district on the new website. It's got updated. There's lots of pictures now of people and students that I recognize instead of some models. So that was nice. And the features, it seems to be easier to navigate it. When I said to one of my daughters, go look it up on the website, she's like, Mom, that thing is useless. And I said, no, go check out the new website. She was pleasantly surprised and said, I'm gonna use that more often now. So I think that's very exciting and I'm grateful. And I just want to point that out. And then also I wanted to thank our administrators for communicating so well. I think I mentioned to somebody I've never received so many emails before in a school year, and they were all helpful and made things much easier to navigate. I know there are a lot of people out there pretty nervous about the first day of school. I was one of them, but all in all, I think it went pretty well. At least I heard good things. A lot of people having much more success than I did with my kids, so that was very exciting. So congratulations.
Thank you, Ms. Kidman.
Yeah, Bob, also have a thank you to say. This morning I pulled up the website to read what was all new and read where that Larry Sage and Sand was approved.
Mm.
And I'd like to do a shout out to Lisa, Jeannie, and Shannon for the work well done and the effort that's been put in there. Thank you.
Yeah, good. That's very timely. Ms. Fowler?
Yes, I had a great visit with, I think, each one of our administrators from Desert View, Page Middle School, Page High School, Mansa Mesa, even a good visit with our preschool director as well. Lakeview, we had to reschedule, but all in all, I just wanted to hear feedback from our school sites because each school site is going to look different. And it's unique to understand our enrollment is looking great at the moment. I was kind of a little iffy about it, but so far we are doing really well. And then also listening into, what the pros and the cons were for some staff members as far as the online schooling. And the unique thing and the beauty about this new school year is that we're all in it together. Compared to last quarter, and we're better prepared. And not only that, there was just a lot of patience from, different avenues. So I appreciate that we were able to hear back from administrators or just even from the school secretary and just asking, like for me, my son couldn't get into one of his classes and to find out it was just, technical problem. But overall, it was just like, you know what, no worries. It's the first day of school. Once we get things figured out, we will call you back with the code and make sure that you are into the Google meeting that like you need to be. So it was good. It was I think that our, here it was good, but I apologize. And I know it was kind of a different scenario in some areas, especially in Page, because the internet wasn't the best as well too yesterday. But overall, I feel like we are off to a great start. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fowler. And I'll just have something before Mr. just real short. We talked about chaos in our welcome, and we're in the middle of it. And so, but I was so impressed. I visited all the school sites last Thursday and said, I don't want to be near the school this week. The teachers were very concerned, as they should be. Man, this is a brand new thing. A 20-year teacher was saying, man, I feel like a first-year teacher. And so the only thing I kept saying to everybody, there's a really great thing about pioneering. If you cut a wrong tree down, just keep moving on. And there was such a synergy in all the buildings in terms of people helping each other in the training and the distributing the books and all of those kind of things. But it was really, really pretty awesome. And I like the celebration part of Jeannie Wood's report this week, but she sent back, she said, you were talking about chaos and you like chaos. I said, I do, because there's organization in chaos. And I had a great example of it when I was in the middle of a typhoon. We'd gotten bashed hard by the front end, and there we were right in the eye of the storm. And so the only great advice for our teachers and our and the parents especially, stay in the eye of the storm as much as you can, because I could see the stars and everything else, and there wasn't the chaos in that storm. There was organization there. So try to stay there and take a deep breath. Talk to several kids. They're doing great. Coming out of it, I'm more concerned about teachers and really more concerned about our parents, because it does take an awful lot of patience, and we're going to make mistakes. That's just the nature of it. But if you contact anybody you know in the Valley, they're having the same kind of issues with Cox and their suppliers in terms of internet and all those kind of things. So yeah, I really appreciated all the preparation, the hard work that was going on. And hey, we got off to a start, and it'll take us 2 or 3 weeks before we settle in. It's going to be a steep learning curve, and we're going to learn. So I do appreciate everybody and all the efforts that are going on. And parents, hang in there, be patient. Well, work with your teachers, but especially work with your kids. So that's all I got to say. Superintendent Wallen.
Thank you. Thank you. And I, Mr. President, members of the board, and my 35 years, of which 20 was associated with being a superintendent, I commend you on getting out into schools the first week, the first days. That is awesome to have this many of you out there showing your support for teachers who are working hard to present exciting lessons. And again, your commitment is well noted. The 23 teachers that you allowed us to bring back early, 2 weeks early, are great resources to everyone. They're training all the other teachers. They're ongoing everyday support to other teachers as they move through. And I constantly see emails going across my screen saying, here's another tip, here's another tip, here's another tip for using technology in that virtual world. So our transition, as far as I'm concerned, to the virtual world has been much easier than what I see on the news when I look at the Valley. And I know that that they're having their difficulties, but we have really made a great transition to the program and really making it work. The part that I would like to share as well with you, and again, thank you for that. That is tremendous. And I need to share my screen. And the thing that I'm occupied with is when we come back to school. I would love to have us back in school tomorrow. I would love to say, let's do this. But right now, we are in a transition phase to study what's happening. So if you remember, on August the 7th, the Department of Health and Human Services, Arizona Department, was supposed to release a metrics for returning to school. They call it Safely Returning to In-Person Instruction. They actually released it on August the 6th. But there's an introduction that talks about the COVID-19 challenges and refers back to the Department of Education's roadmap for reopening schools and how this all goes together with local health departments and school districts. But the thing that we were watching for, the item I was watching for, was benchmarks. Tell me what it's going to take. What should it look like for us to reopen school? And so those benchmarks came in two pieces. One is the how, and that's our continuous learning plan that we developed with 35, I believe it was 35 teachers. We put that together. It's posted on our website to anticipate every contingency to mitigate the impact of the COVID-19. And those people did a fantastic job putting that together. We still refer to that for guidance right now, today even, put that together. And then the when, and the when is when can we come back to school? And that's really based on community spread and what that's going to look like, and our mitigation plan. How strong is our mitigation plan? The CDC defines 3 levels of community spread. One is minimal, which is evidence of isolated cases; moderate, which is sustained transmission with high likelihood; and substantial, which is large scale controlled community transmission. So those are the 3 categories. And if you're looking at the chart that I have in front of you, this has been defined down into, so what are the benchmarks that we're going to look at in relation to minimum, moderate, and substantial spread of the COVID-19 virus? One of the benchmarks is cases. And minimally, if we use the minimal, the green column, it's less than 10 cases per 100,000. Moderate, and then substantial. Percent positivity is less than 5%. So testing, when people are being tested, there's a less than 5% positivity rate, and then moderate, and then substantial. Then the COVID-like illness, actual hospitalizations, is less than 5%. So these are the metrics that were put out and established as benchmarks. And that's what this screen is breaking it down and showing the, I'm trying to get my mouse to show that the benchmark, and it's based on the benchmark for the cases, the 5%, is based on a 2-week spread. So we're looking at data over 2 weeks. The percent positivity is based on 2 weeks, and the COVID-like illness is based on 2 weeks. And so the data comes to us from the county and state and helps us make that decision. So then additional considerations for us to consider when we want to come back to school is looking at a 2-week decline in the number of cases with new case rates below 100 per 1,000. That's that 5%. than the positivity and the COVID. So it's giving you the idea of what that's going to look like for us to come back to school. The community spread levels, and then it goes in and breaks it out and says, okay, if we are in a community spread level of no to minimal, which means green, we could return to traditional school, and we would need to have hand hygiene and respiratory etiquette, enhanced cleaning and proper ventilation, and monitor absenteeism. So those are the minimum pieces that we would need to have to mitigate the impact of COVID-19. If it's minimal to moderate, that could be a hybrid model, which we didn't select, but one I think that we're going to have to allow to happen, because the hybrid model has a variety of things to it. It could be parents saying, I don't want my kid to go to school because I'm too scared of the infection, so I'm going to leave him at home and have him go on virtually. While some kids are on the ground virtually. A hybrid model could be, we're going to open K2, or we're going to open K5 only. A hybrid model could be, we're going to have half our kids come on A day, half the kids come on B day. It has a variety of implications. And so that hybrid model, again, is about hand hygiene, respiratory etiquette, enhanced cleaning, proper ventilation, monitor absenteeism, symptom screening. And that's where we're saying every kid that comes in the door is going to have a temperature check, maintaining that physical distancing at 6 feet, cloth face coverings, cohorting, which means you're moving classes around versus individuals moving around. In some cases, it could be, as an example, in the hybrid model, that at the elementary, we move teachers and not students. Students stay in the same room. It's the teachers that move around. Field trips and large gatherings are canceled and communal spaces are closed. If we're in a substantial infection spread level, then you can see that, and you see that none of those are there because we are not supposed to be in school. We are on a virtual learning, which we are right now based on the metrics. So that's what that looks like and how it translates out. And so then here is a reopening checklist that we will be using. And it's to reopen buildings for on-site services or in-person instruction is consistent with those benchmarks. The consult the local health authority, and thank you, President Candelaria, for the meeting yesterday with the CWC and pulling everyone together. The local providers, as well as Tuba City IHS, was involved, and looking at the metrics in terms of cases, positivity, and the COVID-like illness. That was a very productive meeting, and I'd like to do one in 2 weeks now. This data is reported in 2-week cycles, so I'd like to do another one in 2 weeks and pull up the new data and see where we are. The adopted mitigation plan includes strategies for traditional, hybrid, and virtual. We have that in place and has been posted on the LEA, the mitigations on the LEA on our website. It's called Continuous Learning Plan. Again, what we call it is Continuous Learning Plan. So there is a data dashboard that is now we're available to look at. And so we just looked at the August 6th data. The next set of data will be available August 13th, and it's covering those dates that you see in this. And then 20th, and every 2 weeks, we'll be looking at the data dashboard to see where we are. And so the reading the data dashboard is going to come up like this. It's going to be 3 columns, and we're striving for the green, that green bar. That green bar says that the decline in cases is below that 5%. The number 2 is 2 consecutive weeks with percent positivity, and they set a 7% benchmark, and that we have to reach that for 2 weeks. And then the third one is 2 consecutive weeks with hospital visits under 10%, reach that benchmark. And so we're looking for a green in all 3 categories, and then we need to convene and say, okay, based on the fact that we've met these metrics, and that means we all have met it for 2 weeks. So we're looking basically at 4 weeks out right now, that we would then consider moving back into regular school in some shape or form. And then it talks about the responding. The critical piece to this whole thing is that people take responsibility. Parents, I take responsibility for myself. I wear my mask, and I wear it every place I go. we wear our mask, we do our hand washing, we do everything we can to prevent the spread. Because what I'm doing by demonstrating that civic responsibility is protecting you. I'm protecting the people around me just in case. And so it goes on and gives additional information which matches our mitigation plan, what to do when someone on site has COVID-19 situations. And one of the things that we talked about in the CWC with President Candelaria and others is just because we have one case does not mean we shut down the entire school. That again is a consultation with our local health officials, the county health department, to look at what does that mean. So we want to be very sure to understand that we will evaluate the number of cases as we go along. What to do when someone on site has COVID symptoms. And it is important to note that release from isolation does not require a provider's note and does not require repeat testing or a negative test. So we got to be very careful about that. Quarantining classes or schools must report any outbreaks of COVID-19 to the local health department. Again, having more than one case within a school does not constitute an outbreak. Having more than one case does not constitute an outbreak. An outbreak is defined as 2 or more laboratory confirmed COVID-19 cases among students or staff with onsets within a 14-day period. Remember, it's a 14-day period and linked together, and they don't share the same household. They're not identified as close contacts, and so on and so forth. So we put that together, and we maintain classroom distancing. One of the interesting pieces with the classroom is my principals are way ahead of me, because when we were talking about especially K-5, they go to the cafeteria, they pick up their lunches, they go back to the classroom and have lunch. We have ordered partitions that will sit on their tables, and it's either 4 or 6 divisions so that each student has his own personal partition space, just like when we partition the dividers out for the secretaries and the receptions at school. So when students go back to their classrooms to have lunch, they're going to have that safety of being within their own little closed space to, again, help mitigate the spread as well. So that was a new piece. And so we're in the process of ordering all those pieces together. And then this goes on into how to wear a mask, wash your hands, COVID-19 physical distancing, and so on. And so the do's and don'ts, this again is on the website, and in this package, how to wash your hands. And that is the important thing that we want to stress to everyone. Number one is social distancing is our first line of defense. And unfortunately, you watch all these gatherings and you see people congregated all over the place. Not in Page. I haven't seen that in Page, but on TV I see that. And that's one of the first steps is that social distancing. The second one is wearing a mask. So if you're thinking kind of a hierarchy of mitigating strategies, the first one is to maintain social distancing. That's 6 feet apart. The second one is that wear that mask. Wear that mask everywhere you can when you're not within that 6 feet social distance. Make sure you have that. And the third one is washing your hands. And so having hand sanitizing stations everywhere that we can put together to make that work. And then it goes into the symptoms. So again, every morning, parents, adults, all of us need to wake up, look at ourselves and say, do we have any of the symptoms that we see here? Trouble breathing, persistent pain or pressure in the chest, new confusion, inability to wake or stay awake, blushing lips or face. One of the things we will have as a mitigating piece to this is temperature checking. However, the more we progress into the COVID-19 scenario, the less reliable that is becoming, and especially among children. They're telling us that children will not necessarily show the symptom of temperature. They're more likely to show the rash, the shortness of breath, the vomiting or diarrhea, and loss of taste and smell, and that kind of stuff, muscle and body aches. So be very careful. We may get a high degree of, what do you call it, false positives related to temperature. So we want to be very careful that our healthcare professionals using that use discretion in making that happen. Physical distancing again is the ideal way to go. And then here's the school learning scenarios with the metrics. And right now we are in the middle one. We're in the basically the virtual on-site supports because we have one in the red. New school day, what that looks like, and then free cough mat. We have masks available. Let me see if I can pull up real quickly the data that we have. I'm sorry, I'm not on my usual computer. Here we go. I think it's this one. And this will basically tell us where we are. No, I'm sorry, this is the Coconino data. Wrong one. I'm not able to pull it up, but in the relation to those three criteria that we talked about, we are green in two of them. We are green in number one, which is the mitigation piece, and we are green in the hospitalization piece. So we are able to hit that. So we're watching to see when that second one will come up and give us a green light to start school. So that's one of the things that just, is on right there at the top of everything, is how this is going to work and what it's going to do to keep us involved in the analysis of that. Why is this important? Well, it's obviously very, very important for the reopening of school, but most importantly, it's important because on August 17th, Monday, we start a part of the governor's executive order. I'm sorry, my screen keeps going all over the place. I need to pull it down. There we go. The governor's executive order in relation to opening a place for parents to go, or for kids to go during the day. So on August 17th, we'll be putting that section of the governor's executive order into place. It'll run from 7:30 to 3:30. 7:30 to 8 o'clock is when parents show up with their kids to the high school gym. They'll go through a simple triage process. They will be allowed to stay in the gym with internet access. We don't provide any services other than supervision. And so they need to pick up their meals before they come over for this. They can go into the gymnasium. There's seats in there that have been assigned. Let me see if I can show you what that looks like. Maintaining the social distancing first so that they don't have to sit in there and wear the mask all the time. Here we go. So we've got the and Mr. Rivers and Mr. Anderson, our assistant principal. This is how we're setting everything up to look like this. So it's segregated by grade level, and in the main gym we could have 372 seats, all 6 foot apart, desks to maintain that social distancing. And then in the dance room, wrestling room, pool gym. So this is the plan. Thursday and Friday we'll be moving the chairs over to set this up and make it work. And that's why it's important, because on Monday that's available to anyone who wants to bring their child to that facility, and they'll be in there they need to bring their laptop or their iPad, their computer, Chromebook or iPad, and be prepared to log into the classes, and they can actually go to school from right in there in the gymnasium if they don't have proper internet access. But again, we're not providing instructional services. We're providing supervision and mitigation strategies to keep everyone safe. And that begins August 17th. And that is on our website with an introductory letter, the regulations, and that kind of stuff for going in to do that. So that again, that mitigation becomes very, very, very important in relation to that. So that's kind of where we are, and that's why, because this is on. I mean, this is like my 3 o'clock wake up and think about this and pray that everything's going to work out and everyone's going to be safe and get ready for this, because we have to open this. This is the executive order from the governor. I would not do this normally, but we're going to be ready to do it, and we're going to do it well. Mr. Rivers, Mr. Anderson will be doing training Friday with staff on how to open Monday and be prepared to welcome our kids, welcome our families into this environment. That's the biggest piece that's coming up. Then the next thing I said is we received yesterday our provisional approval for the Sage and Sand virtual school, virtual academy. And I know they already identified about 30 students who were wanting to enroll in that class. Well, as soon as we get our CTDS number from the state, we'll be able to log that school into Power Schools, slip those kids over, and they'll be in there ready to go. We have teachers already working on that with Dr. Hubble, moving forward with that piece. And again, I want to close with saying thank you, governing board members, for your support and your foresight in letting those teachers come back, number one, to do our continuous learning plan, which is helping us now. Those people worked off contract on a timesheet. Thank you for the 23 teachers who came in and worked on how to do virtual lessons and put those together, because that has created such an excitement that I am so proud that our students are going into those classes. I just like President Candelaria, I checked the Valley for what's going on, and we are far ahead. We are far ahead. And as you said, it'll be a learning experience for everyone. It's a new way of doing things. I feel like a first-year superintendent, first-year principal again, because I've never had to face these kind of challenges before. Yeah, I've faced snowstorms. I've had Black Hawk helicopters in my school bus loading area to deliver food to people, but I've never had anything that affects individuals like this has done, and it's creating a whole new dynamic in education. The other day, I watched my grandson logged into his PE class unknowingly. His dad was filming him, and he was just jumping up and down in front of that screen, just like a little beaver going this way and that way, and his hands up. And the teacher was telling him what to do, and positioning for him to go, and that's a whole new learning. And he was all by himself in the room. So those are the challenges that we face as we move forward with that. So thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, governing board members, for your support and setting us up to make this happen in the least disruptive way that we can.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Wallen. And this will cover probably item number E, I think, in our agenda. Let's see. I think it's because we had an update. Yeah, item E. And let's just go ahead and if you have, while it's fresh, if anyone has any questions for Mr. Wallen concerning any of this or any comments.
I have a question. When do you anticipate Sage and Sand to be up and running?
I would suggest probably within a week. As soon as we receive, we have to have what's called CTDS number. It's our code number for loading up attendance to the state. As soon as we get that, then we can, the classes are created, the students are identified, we could just move them over. Many of them are already going to school at their site, like at the high school, middle school, and they'll just slide over into Sage and Sand. I'm hoping within a week, unless we run into some glitch at school finance, which I don't anticipate any, but it's a different time.
Thank you.
All right. If no other questions or comments, let's go ahead and move on in our agenda where we don't have any unfinished business. And so now we'll consider the consent agenda. And Des, do you have the statement with you?
Yes, I do. I'm going to go ahead and read that.
Thank
A
you.
copy of the consent agenda is available at the district administration office. All items listed will be considered as a unit by the governing board and will be approved with one motion. There will not be a separate discussion of these items unless a board member requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered as a separate item.
Okay, thank you very much. This is an action item. I'll need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, sir.
I second that motion.
And thank you. Do we have a motion and a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. Moving on to item number 7, calendar of events. Anybody have anything they'd want to mention at all? Just, I think it's just going to be school as usual as it started today, right? So,
Correct. But remember that August 17th, that's when the
Right.
on-site support learning takes place.
yep,
That's a critical event.
yep, absolutely. And again, I'll add my congratulations to, I talked to Ernie all the way along, and I was surprised at how many spots we have. So it's going to be interesting in terms of capacity. It will be interesting to see how many folks show up, because you said if you didn't have virtual, but it's also will provide probably for those people that are like first responders or folks that are working, cannot support that in their house. So anyway, that's going to be a real interesting day for sure.
And just to add to the conversation on the record, if we have 350, 400 students show up, we need to convene the board back again and say, wait a minute, maybe we
Right.
should go ahead and look at a hybrid opening of school. If we've got that many kids in the facility, that's a third, not quite a third. We should maybe look at some other hybrid scenarios to reopen school.
Absolutely. And again, with the kind of the motto for the board is add mobile and agile without the hostile. Okay, so we'll do that. We'll be ready. Additional agenda items. We'll start with A, employee handbook for 2020-2021. And I'll just add one thing. We have had the discussion, I think, in the work study sessions that we've actually by just precedent been in the process of approving the mode of approving handbooks that look for a change in the future with regard to that. But this is an action item for the employee handbook 2021, 20 and 21. I'll need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion that the governing board adopt the employees handbook for 2020 and 21.
Thank you.
I'll
So-
second that motion.
And we do have a motion and second. Dr. Maurer.
Governing Board President, members of the Governing Board, Superintendent Wallen, thank you guys for the time. This is a carryover from the previous meeting with which I didn't get the handbook to you guys in adequate enough time for review. So with this, it has been reviewed, it was uploaded. You can see anything that was added or changed for 2021 was put in yellow, which would include the date changes, the onboarding, Superintendent Wallen, and then some references to policy. So making sure we put the policy numbers along with what policy we're quoting in the handbook.
Okay, good. Thank you, Dr. Maurer. Is that it? Good. Okay. Any questions, board members, or comments? Okay, not hearing any. We do have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. Item B, COVID-19 waiver acknowledgement. This is an action item. I'll need a motion and a second, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the 60-day review of the, COVID action item.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the COVID waiver / acknowledgement. There will be options there. So Dr. Maurer.
So, Governing Board President, members of the Governing Board, Superintendent Wallen, the way to think about this is your auto insurance. So you have auto insurance. And as you purchase things with your auto insurance, in this case, we're talking about the school's insurance, the trust who insures us. They are asking for us to purchase what they're calling a COVID-19 endorsement. That endorsement will cost us $20,000. And depending on what option you choose, so they've made a recommendation that boards choose to use a waiver. So as we go through the school year, the students who come in on August 17th, we would request that those parents sign the waiver if this is the choice that's made. And then from us putting into place all of the mitigation plans, all of the waivers, we don't have to collect every one, just make a good faith effort. Then as we move through the school year, if there is litigation against the district in and around COVID-19, our deductible would be $0. Waiver. Okay. If the governing board was to choose the acknowledgement, so the governing board says, we're not going to ask parents to sign a waiver. Right? When we go on field trips, we ask parents to sign a waiver. When they play sports, we ask parents to sign a waiver. So in this case, the governing board says, no, we're not going to use a waiver with regards to COVID-19. What we would like to do is just an acknowledgement, that there's an acknowledgement of the possibility that through all of our mitigation strategies, your son, daughter, or you yourself as an outside community member could catch COVID-19. And if you were to bring litigation against PUSD, each instance would be $10,000 as a deductible. Okay, so a waiver would be $0, an acknowledgement would be $10,000, and then the trust itself is not recommending this avenue, which is we do nothing. If we do nothing, every occurrence that litigation is brought against the district, it would be $20,000 as a deductible for their representation.
All right.
And
again, we have to understand this is brand new across the board. We haven't carried COVID insurance before, and so the trust is giving us those options. And again, Superintendent Wallen, do you have a recommendation for the board?
Well, the best financial decision would be that we make a good faith effort to distribute and collect from parents and visitors a parent letter. The parent letter is attached, but the waiver of liability, because that would get a $0 deductible. I know the trust is putting out there $1 million liability per incident, but if you could quickly get into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I would suggest that we go with the waiver of liability, and try to make that good faith effort to distribute and collect that from parents. And
What happens if several parents decide not to sign off on option 1 or 2?
well, no, we only give them option 1. We only give them 1, not 2.
And still, if they don't sign up, what happens in that case? The students, are they not allowed to come? What's the outcome?
We would continue on with school. We would note that they refused to sign it, just like we would if anyone else did, and move on.
Okay.
We would not take any adverse action against students. That's not allowed.
Yeah, in the language, it's like a good faith effort on the part of the school, and we have to affirm that or confirm it. Yeah. I'll just say that when I first looked at this, I like the waiver option for sure, but in each one of them, they're virtually the same. They want to specify and understand. Parents to understand their responsibilities and the school to understand their responsibilities and all of the things they're going to do. The only thing I took exception to a little bit, if I look at this first letter, that looks like more legalese, and I said, is there a way to make it look, not change the substance, because those are words from the trust itself, but make it a little bit easier to read, like the second one, dear parents and guardians. It looks like it's something the school would do. But anyway, I don't know that it makes any kind of difference. And I don't even know if that's
it does in
doable.
court.
Well,
Make-
could.
It makes all the difference in court, though.
Yeah.
So my question is, here's my question. I prefer option 1, just to make that clear. But what I don't understand is why we still have to spend so much money on COVID insurance when we have waivers. Is this just to fend off possible litigation? 'Cause if we make a good effort, and have people sign these waivers, then they should understand that they can't,
Well,
take us to
yes.
court.
I guess historically, the first piece is that there is no insurance for COVID-19 anywhere in the country.
Right.
That's what created this. So, what the trust is saying, they're going to put out an insurance policy, and it will cost us between $20,000 to $50,000 to get that policy, and they'll give us a quote. But with that quote, then we determine what our deductible is. So, is it going to be a zero deductible, 10,000 or 20,000? That's really what
No,
it's about.
yeah, I know. I understand all that, but I don't understand why we need to pay fee to the trust when
order-
we have waivers.
Well, be- you
It just
can't.
seems like they're taking advantage of that situation. That's what it seems like to me.
Well, it's a business decision to try to cover their losses, is exactly what it is. So that $20,000 to $50,000 fee is being levied against all school districts. Because remember, the trust is combined all of us, and so that's what they
Right.
determined to build up the reserve to litigate these cases.
Okay,
Now the
so
real question
then,
is if
it-
they have no cases, do we get our money back?
yeah, no kidding. But the
Probably
question
not.
also is it based on our student enrollment? What is it based? I mean, 20,000 to 50,000?
It'll be based on student enrollment. Mr.
Because-
Meyer, Dr. Meyer.
So we did get our quote from the trust, and it is $20,000 for the endorsement. So that would be the cost to the school district to provide the endorsement of COVID-19 insurance for the school year. So that did come in. We did get it. So where you saw that range from 20 to 50,000, that was the ballpark they gave us when we originally drafted this. We since have our estimate now at $20,000. That would be the cost. That would come to you in the next governing board meeting because it's going to require some signatures. And then from there, it will go retroactive back to July 1, and we would be covered moving forward.
Okay, one more question then. So with with option one, it'll cost us $20,000. Where are we going to be able to take that money out of some of our COVID grant funding? Where's the 20,000 going to come from?
We'll put it into our COVID grant funding and see if we can get out of there. But we also have a trust incentive fund, I think it's called, that because of good ratings, we have an account with the trust that'd be the first place I'd take it from, and that's got more than $20,000 in it. So
Okay, well, okay.
I would try not
because
to bring it out. Yeah.
Our incidences are low, so we have a little buffer, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, all right, sounds good.
Any other questions, comments?
I just had talked to Larry about this for clarification earlier. I said it'd be real good if this particular document is translated in Navajo and put it on air, because just among us who are asking questions and for clarifications, I'm sure parents out there would want to know what this is all about.
Okay,
Thank you, Larry.
Mm-hmm.
good comment.
Okay, we had kind of a general motion that didn't specify which option we're choosing, so I
Correct.
think we
We'll
need
have
to
to-
make a new motion.
Right, we'll have to do that in terms of the option that we're going to consider. So yes. But first, any other comments on this thing? Okay. You want to propose a motion, Mrs. Kidman?
I make a motion that the governing board chooses option, okay, sorry. I make a motion that the governing board approve option one provided by the trust.
Okay, thank you. Motion and, we got a motion second.
I'm fucking it.
All right, good. And on the block theory that ASBA gives us, we will, I'll bring up the first motion, and if it does not pass, then we consider the second one. Is that fair? In terms of how you conduct the order? So the
Well,
motion,
I don't know if that's even necessary, but because it did state that we had to make a decision.
okay.
So, but I don't
So-
know. Either way is probably fine.
All right, we're just for formality. And again, I'm going to bring the first motion up, and we've decided to amend that. And so all in favor of the first motion, say aye. And if you say no, we will consider the second one. I say no. Okay.
No,
So that, anybody else? Everybody vote yes or no? No's? Or was that confusing?
I'm sorry, can you repeat what you just mentioned?
Yeah, if we vote no on this, the first motion, we get that out of the way. And then we can consider the second with the amendment of option 1 very specifically. So we have 3 no's that would have carried it, but Ms. McCary and Ms. Fowler, is that clear?
Yes, it's clear. Yes.
Okay, so Ms. Fowler is a no, and Ms. McCary?
No.
No, okay, thank you very much. Okay, so the first motion is down. We'll consider the second with the option 1 as the motion was amended, is the one that the board is going to recommend that we follow. So that would be the waiver. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you very much. And thank you, Ms. Kidman. All right, the next item on our agenda is item number C, if I'm following that. Everyone keep me straight. 60-day review for Sage and Sand Virtual Academy curriculum. This is an action item. Need a motion in a second.
I make a motion for the 60-day review of the Ednuity Pathblazer as a K-5 supplemental resource for the Sage and Sand Virtual Academy.
Thank you, Ms. McCary. Second? We'll need a second.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Fowler. All right, we've got the motion in the second. Ms. Garrison, Shannon. Are you there, Ms. Garrison?
I am.
There
Good
you go.
evening,
Yeah, I can see your
evening.
presentation.
Superintendent Wallen, President Candelaria, members of the board, staff, and our great community of Page. Thank you for the opportunity this evening to speak to you on behalf of Sage and Sand Virtual Academy about the resource adoption process. My name is Shannon Garrison, and I am the Director of Curriculum and Instruction for our great district. To ground ourselves in our work, we'll start first with our district vision. As we think about our vision, this really is the direction that we want to continue to head and the legacy that we want to leave behind. Through an adoption process, we are really focused on being a community of learners who direct our collective actions and resources towards the unique learning needs of every child. The work of our resource adoption is directly aligned also to our mission, which is really our day-to-day purpose. The words that stand out to me in our mission really are that this work is centered around being responsible and accountable to every student. Sage and Sand is our new virtual academy that was recently given provisional approval. As we prepare for opening a new school, we want to ensure that we have the resources in place that we need to be successful and for our students to be successful. Our goal is to go through the resource adoption process that is aligned directly to our governing board policies. And the policy here that we're looking at is really IJJ, which is the textbook supplementary materials selection and adoption. The board adopted Edgenuity back in July of 2018 for grades 6 through 12 all across our district. And as we think about Sage and Sand Virtual Academy, our LMS or learning management system for 6 through 12 will be Edgenuity. For the 2020-2021 school year, we have started an adoption process for adding a K through 5 platform for Sage and Sand Virtual Academy. And we want to take a look at Edgenuity's Pathblazer for this. The next thing in the policy that really stood out to me was continuity. We want to ensure continuity with our resources and consistency K through 12 for our new online academy. And so we want to take a look at Edgenuity's Pathblazer, which supports K through 5. Resource Adoption Committee. I am currently working with Dr. Hubble, our principal at Sage and Sand Virtual Academy, and the Sage and Sand Virtual Academy staff to move through this process. I want to highlight here the site council piece. There's currently not a site council at Sage and Sand Virtual Academy, as this is a newly approved school. This will be established and will facilitate next steps as we think about the adoption process and moving forward. With that, this evening, we're really talking about the request for a 60-day review and asking the board to allow us to simultaneously run the rest of the adoption process aligned to our policy here and the 60-day review in order to more quickly facilitate getting a resource adopted for our new school. So let's talk about the resource here. We're talking about Edgenuity's Pathblazer. And with this resource adoption process, we're only talking about adopting this for K through 5 at Sage and Sand Virtual Academy. The product here would support grades K through 5 math and reading, grades 1 through 5 science, grades 2 through 5 social studies, and really this is a personalized, age-appropriate online instruction learning management system that has an intervention component as well. I want to show a demonstration here. And when we think about the demonstration process, our staff over at Sage and Sand Virtual Academy with Dr. Hubble are currently looking at this product. And we'll go in and we're going to go under the student view. And just show you what our students see. So PBS Student 1 is one of the demo accounts with the password EDGE20. And I want to make sure the school would actually be coming up as PageUD Trial. Looks like it's coming up as Odyssey, so I apologize for that. Let me see if I can't back that up and try that again. Well, for whatever reason, it is just showing as Odyssey on there. So I'm just going to talk our board through that, and then I can work with you guys individually to show you the trial and see if we can't get a better version of that to show you, to walk you guys through the demo as well. That was my goal, was to want to be able to show you that tonight. But usually when you click on school here, it should have another option for Page USD trial, and that's not coming up on my computer for whatever reason. So gonna have to make an adjustment here with technology, and I would offer to be able to walk through that particular piece with our board members as well. But what I wanted to show you tonight is what our Sage and Sand Virtual Academy staff has been looking at with this demo trial. They received the same link. They within their link, they were able to use the drop-down menu and see the school Page USD trial. I'll find out why that's not coming up on my device. It came up earlier, but it's not there now. sometimes those best laid plans fail and you've got to make adjustments on the fly with that. But we have specific accounts that we have received from Edgenuity that support providing a trial or a demo for both our teachers, and it does show the student view as well. And so as we think about the trial and think about the purpose of a 60-day review, what we're asking the board tonight to consider is to open up the review period for this particular resource so that the board can further look at it. Our staff at Sage and Sand will continue to go through the process and look at it. And also that we could open it up to our community, and any families and community members that are interested in sending their child to Sage and Sand that would like to be a part of the resource adoption process could also review the resource as well. And so these are the demo codes that we would make available. With the demonstration, and what I wanted to show you is that in the demo currently we can see the areas of reading and math. And as we look at the individual grade levels, they're all aligned directly to our Arizona state standards. There are visuals, pictures, videos. Student access includes activities and instructional videos that walk our students through the learning. There is reading, writing, an application of learning opportunities for performance tasks. It also allows you to maintain a student portfolio and shows a grade book on there so our students can monitor and track their growth and progress as they move through as well. Our teachers from Sage and Sand will continue to review with these demo accounts and provide comments and feedback. They've already started in that process and have a running record of what they're seeing, what their comments and feedback are directly. And really, when we think about this information, the great thing about what we're able to view, if you guys approve the 60-day review process, is we're able to view both the staff and the student side of Pathblazer and what's available. And all of this would be published if the 60-day review period is approved to be open tonight. So what are the next steps for us? We'll continue the work with our adoption process, and our staff at Sage and Sand will continue to review and demo the K-5 Edgenuity Pathblazer. We would be looking at the 60-day public review, and with this would be a virtual opportunity where we would look to communicate this information out to the public via our district webpage, Facebook, and other available media. Recently thought about potentially us putting together a video. We could post that to the district webpage to get more information out, to walk parents through how you would navigate that. Once again, I wanted to be able to navigate that and show that to you this evening in the demo, but it didn't come up for me. So not anything I can do at this moment, except for we can put that together for our families that want to be a part of this for Sage and Sand Virtual Academy. We also can put it together for our community, because anybody can be a part of the 60-day review process. And we want to get good, solid feedback to ensure that we are getting the best resource for our students. And remember, we want that, that consistent resource too. And that's why we're looking at the Edgenuity K-5 component. Once this is published, you want to have a way to get that feedback that I was talking about. And so we would set up an email directly for comments. And as a part of the process, those comments would be taken to our resource adoption committee with Sage and Sand Virtual Academy. Their site council would be a part of it as soon as that's established. And then we would look to bring that information back to the board. Traditionally, it's open for a 60-day review process. If that is the selected resource at the end of all this, that would be brought to the board as a recommendation to the school board for you guys to make the decision on approving or disapproving the resource. What questions can I entertain for the board regarding K-5 Edgenuity Pathblazer?
Board members, any questions?
Yeah, Bob, I have a question.
Yeah, go.
What's the projected cost?
Yes, excellent question. The cost per license will be $75 per student. We heard Superintendent Wallen talk about the number of students enrolled currently at Sage and Sand, and I believe he said there were about 30 students. When I was running numbers, I went all the way up to 150 students to just ballpark, and $75 times 150 students would be 11,250. And so, when I was talking with Superintendent Wallen, we don't believe that our enrollment will probably be that high. And so really think of it as the $75 per
It's still live
license.
streaming. Hopefully it just is my machine and not everybody.
Brian, please, you did.
Okay, no, I'm glad to hear that it's a per student fee and not a, bulk payment.
Yeah, they do have, of course, like most companies, they have the option for the site license. That would not be the sound investment for our district at this point. We'd be looking just at individual licenses. If enrollment increased and it did make sense, and that would be a decision on behalf of the board if that was the direction you wanted to look at, if it made more sense to be fiscally responsible and choose a site license. But right now it's just individual licenses that makes the most sense here.
Okay, great. Thank
Good.
you.
Any other
Hi.
questions, board members?
Question.
Yeah, Dee.
Ballpark number of how many students you'll have per grade level and how many teachers are going to be helping or with the virtual schooling?
So Des, the biggest piece that I can talk to you with the resource adoption process is I do know that we do have teachers that are one teacher at least at each grade level that are supporting Sage and Sand. I couldn't tell you beyond the numbers as far as enrollment, aside from what Superintendent Wallen shared tonight with the number 30 that are currently enrolled.
Thank you.
Remember that in Sage and Sand, especially K-5, in our online application, we would have a teacher in front of the Pathwise program, where 6 through 12, it's very independent. And so the teacher monitors the students' progress. In K-5, there's a little more direct involvement. And right now we have one teacher assigned there. The last numbers I saw was about 5 students had elected, but at that time it hadn't been approved. So now that it's approved and we're doing the advertising, it may change. But right now we have one teacher who's already requested transfer. We pulled another teacher who was on a different assignment over. And so right now there's 2. And then the staff that were assigned to what was that program called, Lynn? The suspension program, ACES. Those staff have been reassigned to Sage and Sand to help get all the initial going in place. Since there's online virtual learning right now, there's no students in that suspension program.
I would hope not.
Yeah, really.
Thank you.
Okay.
And so
All right.
just the last piece here is thank you again for the opportunity to share information this evening on behalf of Sage and Sand and the resource adoption process. And it is at the will of the board to determine the recommendation that's been put forth here for the board to open up the review period for Edgenuity K-5 Pathblazer for the 60-day review. Thank you again.
Thank you, Shannon. Anybody else have anything, comments, questions?
I just
Okay.
want to make one comment. Desiree, my daughter, for example, has taken one class in Edgenuity this year, and she's basically she has to work on her own, pace herself. I watched her do her introductory stuff. And then she has one teacher at the high school that's assigned to her as a contact person to help her. So, and I've had kids do that before, and it works quite well for kids in that age group.
And they work at their own pace?
As much as they're allowed to, yes.
Yes, understand. Good. Okay. All right. Thank you. We do have a motion and we have a second to that motion. I'll now call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Ms. Garrison, thank you so much. Appreciate all your work.
Thank you, guys.
All right, our next item is a discussion. It's a first reading of Policy Service Advisory 672, 676. Superintendent Wallen, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. This is a policy advisory that's been put out by the Arizona School Boards Association, who has been contracted to keep our policies in compliance. And this would be first reading and basically discussion. And the second reading, Lynn, is going to be at the September meeting, at your September action meeting. So this is considerations for policy GCQE, which is about sick leave payment upon retirement and what that would look like. And this is not, they're advising us this policy is minimal in use, but if you want to have it, then they're saying certified employees would be paid based upon a daily rate established, and then support staff will be paid on daily rate calculated by their hours. And there's a little chart that goes through that. So that's one of the things we want to look at. Policy BEC, executive sessions, just adds school safety operations and school safety plans or programs to a possible executive session item. So that can be considered now in the proposed executive session. Policy IHAMD, instruction and training in suicide prevention, is a policy that will, if the governing board issues identification cards, now I have to take a step back because I didn't know it was the board's decision to do identification cards. So I guess now it's going to be in the future to students in grades 9 through 12, then we need to put on those identification cards by July 21, 2021, one of the following statements: the telephone number for our National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, the telephone number for our national network of local crisis centers, a statement describing how to access a text-based emotional support service, and the telephone number for a local suicide prevention hotlines. The governing board may include this information on student identification cards by printing the information on or affixing a sticker that contains the information to those cards. Districts will issue identification cards to students in grades 9 through 12 should take steps to meet this requirement. So it's almost like more like an advisory than a statutory requirement. And that requirement goes into effect July 21, 2021. So that'll be first reading, decide if you want to do that. The next policy advisory discussions is policy is based on the effect of the COVID-19. And it's a regulation GBGB-R, staff personal safety. And it's going through that policy as well as JICA-RB, student dress, and KIRB, visitors to schools, and saying that the use of face coverings are required until the Arizona Department of Health Services determines that face coverings are no longer necessary to recommended to contain the spread of the virus. The new language is identical in all three regulations, that face coverings are to be worn by staff, students, and visitors. And if you notice when you came into the building tonight, you probably saw a yellow sign that said face mask required. Districts should review the recommended guidelines to ensure the needs of our schools and community are met. Policy IHA, Basic Instructional Program, specifies that September 25th each year shall be observed as Sandra Day O'Connell Civics Celebration Day. It is not a legal holiday, but is a day that's been designated to support civics education. And Arizona Revised Statute 15710-01 adds that on Sandra Day O'Connell Civics Celebration Day, September 25th each year, each public school in this state shall dedicate the majority of the school day not to Sandra Day O'Connell, but to civics education. And I'm sure she was very involved in civics education and putting that forward. So that would be an advisory change. Again, it's not a holiday, but it is saying that on September 25th, we're going to promote civics education with Sandra Day O'Connell Civic Celebration Day. Policy KB, parent involvement education, requires the board to post on its website a statutory handbook of parental rights that consists, and it goes through a variety of Title I, Chapter 6 sections, Title 15 uh, to put that together. We pull that down from Department of Education, and it requires us to prominently post on a publicly accessible portion of our website a link to the statutory handbook on parental rights. And those are the major changes.
Okay. Any comments? Again, this is a first reading, and you'll have time to take a look at them as well before adoption. Any comments, however, at this point? Okay, I don't hear any. So we'll go ahead and move on. Item E, we've already had the conversation. Thank you, Superintendent Wallen, for that.
Oh, I messed up. I'm sorry.
No, we're all right. We're all right.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
It's a, that I was so glad to get the metrics that I just wanted
Yeah.
everybody to know about those metrics.
Well, that's these are unusual times, I've heard,
Yes.
and they demand attention to the things that are super important. And I know that's been on your mind and this whole time. So appreciate that, though. Thank you. So that's item E. Item 9 is future agenda items. I know that there was an email that was sent out that I think, Lynn, you were trying to identify someone that was trying to own something regarding personnel issues, I think, or something. Did you get response? Okay. Did any board member request future agenda item concerning personnel items?
Okay, then I can take that off the list.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I'm sorry, I don't recall who asked that it be put on there, but
Okay. Yeah, and I mean the obvious, just the update on numbers and just food and various other things. We'll just keep that as part of the regular updates at our work study sessions, I think, so we can understand those things. And anybody else have anything they'd like to bring up at this point? If not, you can always talk to myself or Mrs. Hoffman. Okay, I hear nothing. Move to item number 10. Need a motion and a second.
I'll make a
I
motion
make
to
a
adjourn.
motion. I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate your work. And well, we'll keep track with how we're doing. And parents, just take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. We'll be all right. Your kids are going to do good. Thank you very much for you tuning in.